Hello and welcome to our Going Virtual Webcast. My name is Nick Severino. I'm the Vice President of Marketing with First Stop Health. The Going Virtual Webcast is here to dive into the topic of virtual care with various guests each month. This month's edition, I'd like to introduce our guest, Ryan Hough. He is the Senior Vice President of Human Resources with 717 Credit Union. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So glad to have you on. Before we dig into the topic of virtual care, I'd like to just get to know you a little more in 717. So can you share a little bit about yourself?
Certainly. I am the Senior Vice President of Human Resources with 717 Credit Union, based out of Warren, Ohio, in the northeastern part of the state. I've been doing this for a little more than 3 years with this organization, but 27 years in the field of human resources with various types of industries. Uh, 717 Credit Union is one of the largest credit unions in the state of Ohio and the largest in the northern part of Ohio. We're also a very high performing credit union, very successful. We consistently make the Forbes top 100 credit unions in the country every year. We're pretty good employer to work for.
Well, sounds amazing. Sounds like a great place to be. So tell me a little bit about 717's really key pain points when it comes to benefits. What are some of the problems you have, or what are some of the things you look to solve as a company within your benefit strategy?
Well, it's interesting because at 717, we're very blessed. We offer a very comprehensive, robust healthcare package to our employees. Uh, it's tantamount to what one might consider a Cadillac plan from yesteryear. We provide healthcare at no cost to our employees or their dependents for all full-time employees, and it's very, very good healthcare. It's like you said, it's much like a Cadillac plan. But what we didn't have was a virtual healthcare model for all of the things that we did provide to our employees. When I got there, I started right before the pandemic started. And even before then, I noticed that was if we were lacking in anything from a healthcare perspective, we were lacking in that virtual model where there would be an ease of access for our employees and their eligible dependents to access for acute care and I'm sure we'll talk about this later, mental health acute care.
Sure. So what did 717 do during the first, year or two of the pandemic if you hadn't offered virtual care?
Well, we leaned very heavily on our classic healthcare plan, but what we found was, we have an EAP as well that provides some mental health services, but not to the level at which we were comfortable with um, continuing on with. So we noticed that we needed to provide better access to our employees, especially as the pandemic uh, became more and more the darkest days where people were, fearful for their health to um, seek healthcare services. Not everything was COVID, but nobody really felt like going and sitting in a waiting room full of other sick people, uh, trying to get their acute physical needs met. It presented, at least to me and the leadership team, it presented a problem which we wanted people to be cognizant and taking care of their physical and mental health. But we saw that fear was creeping into their psyches to where they were putting off things they wouldn't go treat. They were worried about obviously their health and the health of their loved ones. And we just felt like a virtual physical and mental health solution was something that was um, really necessary. And so for I would say the first year of the pandemic or so, we did lean on our physical health care, but we found that if you're talking about a pain point, it just became lacking in that, I guess call it that third rail of care.
Right. Yeah, we hear that often from employers and the consulting community, that people kind of evolve into virtual care from physical, then into the mental health world, just because it's, you feel like your body first, then your mind. But, what have your experiences been, you personally with virtual care? Have you or any maybe close family members had any experiences with virtual care or using it?
Well, we do, and I do. I had prior experience with First Stop Health as a virtual healthcare medium. Um, my wife has it, and so therefore I had it even before 717 Credit Union had it as a benefit offering to its employees. And so it, I was really, I really benefited from my experience with First Stop Health. I used it for my acute healthcare needs, and one of the things that I really appreciated was just the ease of access and the I don't know, the responsiveness, I guess is the word. It's very fast. It's you don't spend time on hold or in a queue for very long. You're speaking to doctors, which is very important to our population. They want to talk to a doctor. So I had really good experiences personally with it. And so when I came to the organization with the idea of, I think we need to bring a virtual healthcare program to the organization, I was able to speak with experience, personal experience from those, and it's been great. You know, again, we use it for acute care. There always going to be a need for in-person emergency care and those things that need to be addressed in person, obviously. But this is just such a value add to our stable of healthcare offerings.
Right. Yeah, that's great. That's great. When you have those personal experiences, it really helps give perspective to others as to the answering the question, well, why do we need this? So can you talk to that a little bit? Talk about the importance of really just supporting your employees' overall mental health and well-being.
I can, and as part of my 27 years in HR, 7 or 8 of those were spent as an executive HR position in a mental health care organization. So for me, they go hand in glove. And I'll steal a phrase from NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, because that's an organization I'm very familiar with. Mental health care is physical health care. They're not different. And so we don't sit around and talk about taking care of people's colds and taking care of people's um, you know sore throats and taking care of people's bumps and bruises in the same way that we talk about people having to care for their mental health needs. The stigma is still there, and I think programs like a virtual mental health care program help kind of erode that stigma. It provides, again, a lot more access. With if you're familiar with mental health care, you probably know that access to quality mental health care is one of the largest problems we've got with that system. And secondarily, the stigma there, mental virtual mental health care provides a little bit of a shield against that stigma because many people would probably access mental health care services if they didn't have to go park in maybe a strip mall or wherever these places are located in fear of running into their coworkers or colleagues or friends. Not that they should have a fear, but in reality that still exists, and this provides, I guess, you know an opening towards people really addressing that side of their healthcare, because those things that go undiagnosed or unattended really can have comorbidity issues and physical issues that go along with it.
Right, right. Those are important components to include in that whole person health, and you're spot on. Mental health is a physical health component. People take it for granted. It's like, oh, it's separate. It's no, it's part of your whole person. If you're not right mentally, then physically you're probably not going to be right as well. So before you offer the virtual mental health solution, did you ever see any experiences inside your own employees, like with some of the things that have come out during the pandemic, from employee burnout, some of these significant staff turnover or anything comparable like that you could say was mental health induced? Maybe see it within populations or anything within your employees.
Oh, well, we've seen, like any organization who has more than just a few employees, or really any, um, the pandemic hit us pretty hard. We lost people. We lost employees. We had employees who lost close family members due to COVID or other things during the pandemic. I mean, it was an unprecedented time, to overuse a term that's been overused, but if you hearken back, there were times where people lost loved ones for whatever reason, but they couldn't have a funeral because they were not permitted in the state. And that does something to a person when we had desperate need for grief counseling type services. We had, I think, desperate need for uh services that dealt with isolation. We talked briefly about hybrid work and remote work and work from home and all of that and all of the benefits that come along with that. But there's some side effects that I don't know that we really um, foresaw, at least in my organization. When we were able to start putting people home and having, remote hybrid schedules and kind of having teams that part of you would be in the office and then you'd rotate off and part of you'd be at home for office coverage. But one thing that we saw was there was a feeling of isolation. Some people really did not like working from home because they were used to being around their work family, their work team. And when you thought some people might love to just, oh, I get to stay home, I don't have the commute, and there's all of that, there were some other issues it created. We saw those as well. Um, Again, mental health has always been an issue, and you can read anything that'll talk about the percentages of people that suffer from uh, mental illness or mental health issues are probably much higher, and they're very underreported. But when the pandemic came around, it just amplified all of those issues that were going either underreported or unnoticed. And you start to see those manifest themselves in behaviors, in people, missing more work or just shutting down. And so the need was extreme at that point. So I don't know how an employer that operates in this day and age can get by without supporting the mental well-being.
Yeah, that's so true. And because it's one of those things, we don't know what we don't know. Our employees or your employees have a need whenever, due to whatever. And during the pandemic, everything was heightened, and the environment around everyone was so different, and no one knew how to get by. And some people just needed to talk to someone, as you said, and hopefully we were able to do that. So I'll ask that question. How was First Stop Health, or how do we actually help your workers? What is it that we provide to them, and what is it that they love about what we do?
Well, and I'm sure you've seen the comments that come through the system. I've had nothing but wonderful comments thanking me, thanking the organization for putting a benefit like this into place. I think number one, the responsiveness. They just cannot believe the responsiveness, the quickness with which they are seen virtually or telephonically, and how quickly people get back to them. They can't believe the ease of access. Again, in Northeastern Ohio, we're blessed with maybe not great football, but very, very good healthcare services. We've got the Cleveland Clinic. We've got a lot of really great hospital systems. Uh, but just to have this vehicle to be able to access care, acute care, uh, at that whenever you need it. We talk about work-life balance or even work-life integration, but this is kind of like people expect to be served around their busy lifestyle, and having a benefit like this just helps immensely. Those of us that have children who we're still raising, or if we have spouses who or family members eligible for these benefits. Everybody's got a busy life, and it's just difficult to have to go sit in an urgent care for 2 hours, or even get into your primary care for that matter, and deal with your um, healthcare needs when this benefit really helps us fit it inside of our busy lifestyles. And that's the comments overwhelmingly have been about the responsiveness, the ease of access, how well they were treated, how professional the service has been. I don't know that we've ever had a bad comment, to be honest. And people who don't try it and then try it for a while, when it's that good, people uh, are willing to speak out about it, and we've had really great response.
Wow, that's great. I number one, I appreciate the kind words regarding the company and what we're able to do, but most of all, it's the care. It's the feedback from individuals like you that hopefully hear it, see it, and you actually experience it with your employees or their loved ones and so forth, knowing that it's just there when they need it, whenever, wherever they need it. So glad to hear that. So Ryan, I want to thank you so much for joining the Going Virtual Webcast. That will actually wrap up this edition. We hope you join our next monthly webcast. Thanks again, and have a wonderful day.